So all the clearances are good. We're gonna start buttoning things up. So first we gotta put those clips back in. To do that, we kind of just push them in, but you have to make sure there's 2 washers. You have to make sure one of those washers is on each side. They're really small and thin, and they tend to bunch up and stick together. So I'm gonna have to use a flathead screwdriver, or maybe one of the very thin feeler gauges, or even like a knife or something, just to separate them because they're so thin and they get stuck together with oil. Make sure one's on each side and then put the clip in, same way we took them out. Okay, you can see there's 1 half ring on the left side there, and then 1 on the right side as well. That one was actually lucky, it was already done for me. So that one's good. Put the clip on, and we'll move on to the next. Okay, all the clips are done. Next, gonna actually drain all the oil. So to do that, I'm gonna have to get rid of everything underneath and loosen that nut and just drain it into the pan, just to get some fresh oil in there. And then before I put the valve head covers on, I'm gonna get some oil and just like basically dump it all over the shim stack there. The Desmotyne's book says to do that just because why not? You know, it's just a good opportunity to lubricate everything, and you might as well. So let's get the old oil out there completely, and then we'll move forward. Okay, next I'm going to take out this oil filter by K&N, and I'll replace it with a new one. It uses a 17 millimeter on the end there just to screw it off. And we'll just be sure to catch any oil that might leak out from it. Okay, now that all the oil is drained out, I'm gonna put the drain plug back in first, and then the oil filter, and start filling up with some fresh oil. Okay, drain plug goes to 31 foot-pounds or 42 Newton meters. So does the strainer plug, and then the oil filter goes to 11 foot-pounds. Sorry, 11 Newton meters. Sad to say, I unfortunately have stripped my oil drain plug. I don't know how. Probably from the first time I did it. Not this time, but when I did it the first time, I didn't have a great tool for it, and we were just really yanking on it, and yeah, it feels like it might have been stripped now. But yeah, we'll pause there. I'll probably put the oil filter in, so I'll show that. So this is the KN153 oil filter for the Ducati, and what we'll do is just prime with some of the new oil. Just prime the outside rubber ring first, just put some on there, and then twist it in by hand, and then torque it down to 11 Newton meters. All right, in the meantime, I went ahead and just kind of rechecked some of these belts, just to make sure that the tension was still where they are supposed to be. And they're pretty tight. I did set it to be able to get a 5 Allen key through it, and a 6 does not, but you really got to push it. So yeah, I just ran the 5 and the 6 through again, and the 5 does go through. You know, you got to use 2 hands, but it goes through on both. The 6 doesn't. So we'll leave it there, even though they do kind of feel like maybe they're on the tighter end. and then we'll just check it again, after a couple hundred miles and make sure that it's still good. So anytime you're doing any major service or specifically an oil change on your Scrambler or honestly any Ducati, I definitely 100% recommend getting one of these aluminum, I think, I'm not sure, but it's just basically an aftermarket, much stronger drain plug. I got it from Desmo Times, from his site. You have the option of either getting the 10 millimeter or the 5. Mine's the 5 for the Scrambler, and the Allen key stock drain plug just always tends to strip. So pretty much just avoid that to begin with. Get this for 30 bucks or however much it is, and it's so much stronger. You can torque it down to spec much better, although there is a different torque spec with this screw. He notes it online. I think it's 18 newton meters, and yeah, just do yourself a favor and get this. It's gonna make your life a lot easier every time you change your oil. To get the bolt that was stripped out, I used these Icon extractors, which worked so well. It literally worked the first try, and I tried a bunch of other stuff beforehand. They got these teeth on it, and you just kind of pick the right size, you hammer it in, and then twist it counterclockwise, and it came right out. So great tool, highly recommend. We're going to torque that new drain plug to 18 newton meters. So we'll do that real quick. Okay, what we're going to do next is put these belt covers back on, since we did already adjust the tension of these, and they do seem to be good on the tighter side, but again, that's what we want, just to make sure that they're within spec, because once they're new, after you break them in for a little bit, they will loosen up. So yeah, we'll go ahead and just make sure that these bolts are torqued one more time, and then cover them up and torque down all those bolts, and then we'll start working on closing up the valve head covers. And we're gonna put some oil in there first to lube everything up, and yeah, get that all good to go. Okay, covers are back on. There isn't a torque spec for these bolts, so I just did it kind of hand tight first, and then used the socket wrench and just went, I don't know, like once it's tight, like another half turn or so. Nothing crazy, since everything will heat up and get more tight anyway. But yeah, they're not coming off, that's for sure. I just did this one by hand, since I can't really get any tool in there because of the clutch cable, and I just didn't want to bother removing this. But it's tight enough, I just did it by hand only. So yeah, those should be good. We're gonna do the valve head covers on top first. So what I'm gonna do is just put some oil in on top of the shim stack, just to get that all nice and lubricated, and then put the covers on, put the new bolts that I got from Desmo Times in, and then torque those down. All right, there isn't a torque spec specifically for these valve head covers, but I got the new bolts in, and I'm just gonna go over everything and just do it just by hand, just tighten them by hand. They're really tight as is, and they really shouldn't be a concern to come off. So I poured some oil on there and then put the cover on with the new bolts, and again, I'll tighten them by hand, and I'll just do the same for this side. And then for this top one on the horizontal, I won't bother with the bottom one, because all the oil actually still seems to circulate through here just from gravity, so there's plenty of oil on there already, is what I mean. and we'll be good. And then we'll actually just top off the real oil in here. But we just want to get that done first. So yeah. Thing to note when putting the valve head covers back on, I did take note of the orientation that I took it off from and which side was up and down and whatever. Make sure you know that, because I just put one on basically 180 degrees the other way and it didn't line up exactly, and you can't even screw it in. So just make sure you remember which way it went, or by trial and error you'll figure that out, but it has to go back the same way. Okay, we got all the covers, valve head covers on, including, you know, vertical and horizontal. And I just screwed in the 2 bolts holding the battery casing here. Okay, I'm gonna do real quick the spark plugs and just remove the little engine turning tool here, and just to make sure I don't forget to take that off before we start the engine or anything, because that would be bad. So I'm gonna take that out, put the cover back on, and then pop the spark plugs in while we're at it. Okay, on our spark plugs here, on the new ones, I put some dielectric grease on this base, the white base, and I checked the gap. It says it should be 0.7 to 0.8, so we're gonna get it with the feeler gauges just to about 0.75, and then we'll pop them in there. All right, so we put everything together piece by piece. I didn't film everything, obviously, but I just put everything back on in the same exact order and in the same exact way as I took it off. So I have everything hooked up now. I filled up the oil, and I'm gonna go see if it's gonna start for the first time. And then once it's running for a little bit, we'll let it sit and then top off the oil. But I noticed when I first turned the battery on, I immediately got like some sounds of like the oil pump or something moving near the tank, and now I can smell gas like a lot. It's like pretty strong. So I'm checking for leaks. I don't see any obvious leaks. It could just be fumes, could be vapor, I'm not sure. It could just be the pumps kind of getting some fuel in the lines, and then that's causing the smell. But yeah, just making note, and I'm kind of just waiting to see if I see any leaks before I start it, obviously. Okay, we got a leak. Looks like, yep, probably gas. Dang it. So when looking at this hose, it doesn't look obvious that there's any leaks anywhere. This is really tight. This union here and this joint is very, very tight. I'm gonna even go ahead and tighten it to make sure, but yeah, I mean, there's just no obvious leaks from here. So it must be from this union or joint clasp, whatever you want to call it, this thing here, that is not just grabbing and making a solid connection. I'll take a video of just when we see it starting to leak. So now when I turn the bike on and it pressurizes, it immediately drips. Great. The connection's supposed to go in like this and then lock. Just like that. No leak so far. You can see it push the hose out though, which is interesting because I mean I didn't notice it on the other side, but I'll look. So we had an issue where when I started it up, I know I didn't film putting everything back together, but like I said before, I put everything back together in the same way and in the same order that I took it all off. You know, so I felt like I just didn't really need to show everything, but I put everything on, you know, tank wise, battery, everything but this last part of the exhaust basically, and started it up and I was noticing a gas leak, and so I determined that it was from, if you're on the bike, it was from the right side fuel line, fuel hose that goes into the fuel pump, and I was able to find that out by basically tilting the tank up a little bit and turning the key on, because I noticed I heard everything start to pressurize when I would turn the key over, not necessarily start the ignition, but just turn the key. You could hear things start to pressurize, and that's probably just, you know, fuel getting into the hoses so that it's into the cylinders in order for it to start and so forth. And I could see drips coming off of that hose. So it was clearly coming from there. And what I did was basically try to just determine if that L bracket, which has been known to break a lot, had been broken or damaged in some way, or the connector that you're supposed to move up and down on the fuel pump, if that in any way was busted. And it didn't really look like anything was severely damaged, you know. Everything seemed to look fine. So I just tried plugging in it again and just really, you know, did it with extra force. I heard a good click, which you should hear when it goes in. Started it up again and I didn't see any leaks. So I think it's good. I mean, I'm definitely gonna have to keep an eye on that because I know those L brackets and those little connectors on the end of the fuel pump can break so easily from what I've read. And you know, you don't want fuel just leaking everywhere at any point. So so I'll definitely keep an eye on it, but it's running right now. It's not leaking as far as I can tell. I'll definitely just do a one over again to make sure, but we will put the last, things together. I'm going to put the exhaust on. It's so loud without it. I definitely don't want to have to put that huge muffler on if I don't have to. I'd like to get maybe just an Amazon, slip on or something, just to save money from buying a full turn-me system. But I definitely can't ride without it because it's just obnoxiously loud. So we'll put it back on for now. It's not super hard to take off, if we do end up getting something a little more fun. think that'll wrap it up on these Scrambler videos. Yeah, we were able to get it running, of course, and I took it for a spin last night and it ran great. So yeah, just happy that everything's done and now I can finally ride it again. So I will, yeah, probably just end the series here. If anything else comes up that I do to it or need to do to it, you know, I might film it again, but hope they were helpful if you watched them, and always happy to answer questions if you put them in the comments, the best of my ability. So thanks for watching.